Hello, Top Fan Rivalry followers. It's Thursday morning. We thought we'd bring you another audio and visual edition. We had a little audio issues last week, but we have the podcast of all podcasts. We have College podcast.
College K's. Yep.
Yep. And we are so looking forward. Dave, how's it going? We ready to do this?
Going well. Yeah, going well. Yes.
Yes. Dave and I have had kind of dreams about doing this because it's gets us away from MLB, gets us to talking about other stuff. So, Dave, I know that we've got plenty to cover tonight. Why don't you kind of lead us off with a few players that we ought to spotlight?
Yeah, it's really early in the season, and not a lot going on in the bigger schools, in the cold weather states and stuff like that. But there was a series in Vegas this weekend. Central Arizona Vaqueros were playing. So they got their season off to a decent start. They played 4 games. They split with College of Southern Nevada, San Jacinto, and Utah State Eastern. And the reason I bring this up is not only do I know a couple of the players, and I know Central Arizona's a ranked junior college, but I like to call out some pitchers because there's a few guys here that really ripped it up right out of the gate. Toby Harrer, who is from Phoenix here, he threw 5.1, no hits, 7 strikeouts, and a 4-2 win.
Wow.
Really nice performance, first time out
Nice.
for the season. Couple of guys here combined in the final game, Felix Schleid and Cooper Foster combined for 7 innings and 11 strikeouts. Really nice work there. And then Carter Muck was in another one of the games. He pitched 2.1, 7 batters. He struck 6 of them out.
Yeah, he might have had a decent outing. You
Yeah.
strike out 6 out of 7 batters. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah,
And then I was just going to call out another guy that I know a little bit about, and that's over in Knoxville, and that's Matthew Dallas. Big time prospect coming out of high school. Big job getting him to campus in Knoxville and not having him drafted. He was hurt with a shoulder injury, but he's back on the mound, and I just want to shout him out because it's good when guys get healthy and get back to doing what they love.
Get back to doing what they love. Exactly. I love that. I love that. Okay, so that those are some players that we're going to be paying attention to as well. On this show, like Dave and I have mentioned, it's kind of a unique situation, right? So there's so many schools compared to 30 MLB teams, and so we are going to do our best to give a lot of these college athletes shout outs. We're going to mention what they've done, where they've played, how they're playing, and please do your very best with your comments, either in our locker room or on YouTube or anywhere. Please remember these are college athletes. So let's maybe not be too tough on them. They're still learning how to play the game at that high level.
Yeah, I went through the box scores and there were some things that, if I was in a different forum, I might call out as kind of not so good performances. But we're not talking about those today. We're talking about the good stuff. So, these guys split their first 4 games. I think they probably had a decent weekend. They probably feel pretty good about it. And I know they feel good about those 4 pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah. So college baseball is kind of in full swing, right? And so now we're looking at it. We got a couple of tournaments coming up, a couple of invitationals coming up. We got one in the desert, and then we've got one that's out at Globe Life Field. And the Globe Life Field one's unique because it's kind of a 3-weekend tourney where it covers, I want to say 16 teams, Dave. So let's take I'm looking at some
14
stuff in the
teams over
desert.
3 weekends.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of the colleges that are going to be playing at the 24 Desert Invitational. You've got Boston College, you've got Boston College out of Chestnut Hills, Mass. You got Brigham Young University out of Provo, Utah. You got Georgetown University out of DC, Grand Canyon University out of Phoenix, Kansas State University out of Manhattan, Kansas. You've got the Ohio State out of Columbus, Ohio. You got University of California at Berkeley, and then you've got USC out of LA. And a lot of these teams, it's their first appearance with this tournament. It looks like there's only two of those teams, Grand Canyon University and Cal, that have appeared before. Everybody else are new teams.
It's going to be a good tournament. You know, this, I was at this tournament last year with different teams, and the parks that they're playing at, Sloan Park and Talking Stick, great fields to watch a game. If you've been to spring training, you might have been to them. You know, not a major league field, but a major league spring training field. So, and they'll be well maintained and ready to go for spring training. These kids get to play on them first, so that's pretty cool. And Grand Canyon is a lot of fun because you're playing on campus. And if you've been to Grand Canyon, in that field, left field is about 5 feet from the street, and it's got its own little version of a green monster out there. So that can be fun.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at some of the scheduling. So on the 16th, this is February 16th through the 19th, everybody. And so February 16th, BYU USC is being live streamed on MLB.com. And then that's at 5 p.m. And then on the 17th at 12 p.m., Kansas State, Boston College, 1 p.m., Cal, Georgetown, and at 5 p.m., The Ohio State University against Brigham Young. All three of those are being live streamed on MLB.com. And then all three games on the 17th and the final game, I'm sorry, all three games on the 18th and the final game on the 19th are all being live streamed. So
Yep.
you're going to see a lot of good college athletes get some love and attention. And so, and these guys are the tomorrow makers, right? These guys are the guys that we're going to be talking about, just like Colt Keith, right? Hasn't played on a major league ballpark yet, just signed a guaranteed $28 million contract for 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what these guys are dreaming of.
yeah. I actually like this tournament. This tournament seems it's unique because you've got East West there. You don't have normally tournaments that are played in specific areas, they're location based. So you like this tournament. Do you like anybody in this tournament? Do you think any team's really kind of your heavy hitter team that you want to watch, or is this kind of a round robin
Grant,
for you?
you know what? Grand Canyon is the favorite in this one, I think. Grand Canyon's got a good team.
Mhm.
You know, they fly under the radar a bit, but that's a good squad. Um, Beyond that, I'd probably be looking at K-State, maybe BYU,
Mhm.
USC. Yeah, there's a lot of good teams, but my money's on Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. And I was going to actually say the same thing. I was going to say that Grand Canyon's probably in this tournament's the one that could run away with it, but don't count out SC, don't count out Kansas State, don't count out BYU. I mean,
The thing to remember too is that all these teams are playing their first games of the year. They're tired of scrimmaging against each other and beating each other up, so they want to go beat someone else up. And this is pre-conference play. It's non-conference, so this is where the coaches get to experiment with lineups, get to experiment with defensive positioning. They get to experiment with their pitching. So it's a little like spring training, except these games count, just not for the conference standings. So you may see some guys play that maybe conference play or maybe not get a whole lot of work once conference play starts. So this is your chance to see them.
yeah, yeah, no, and these are good. Again, I enjoy an MLB game just as well as anybody else, but college and MLIB games are a lot of fun because those guys are going to give it their all. Doesn't matter what's happening off the field. They want a shot to play at 7:30 underneath the lights, right? And so these guys, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're in Phoenix and you're looking for something to do, I mean, I'd get over to one of these games or a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you won't be in Phoenix during that time. You'll be someplace else. Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be in Dallas at Globe Life Field. The Shriners Shriners, what do they call this actually? It's the Shriners College Showdown.
Yes.
And actually that's the first tournament. And then they have a consecutive tournaments the 2 weekends after that that have a different name, the College Baseball Series. But we got 14 teams covered here. We've got, I don't know, probably half of them are nationally ranked. Some really good baseball here. So I'll be at Globe Life.
So tell me about that first week and what you see there. Um, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously
We've got
you got a little passion for one of those teams, but go ahead. Tell me about the first week.
well, you've got two teams in this. You got Baylor, Oklahoma, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas Tech, and Nebraska. So some heavy hitters.
Mhm.
Tennessee in Baseball America is ranked number 8. Texas Tech is ranked 18. Um, be some good baseball right there. I think the other ones are always going to be tough. So I know Tennessee plays 3 consecutive night games. So they play Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And I believe, I don't know if this tells us where that they're going to be televised, but I think ESPN Plus is your friend if you want to watch these games.
Yeah. It doesn't say in the article. It just says that, it gives a breakdown of the cost if you want to, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Baylor, Oklahoma, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Nebraska. That's all February 16 to 18. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but there's 3 games a day. There's a like an 11 a.m. Phoenix time, or I think it might be Dallas time, like a 3 p.m. and a 7 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a good lineup too, because like you say, there's a lot of teams here that if they're not nationally ranked, they've got a shot. And um, they're not teams to sleep on. Then the next week you've got 4 other teams there. Um,
Yeah, you
Go
got
ahead.
Michigan, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Oregon State. So
Oregon State, yeah.
you got 2 of those are ranked. Both of the Oklahoma and Oregon State are both ranked. Oklahoma State's 21, Oregon State's 5.
Yep.
And I know Michigan's got a good squad. Arkansas is always tough. Good SEC team there, so that'll be some good baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
February 23 to 25.
Yeah. No, that is you're absolutely right. I mean, that's gonna be some good baseball there. And then round 3 or the next week, and you have 4 other teams there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because USC goes from the Desert Classic in Phoenix on February 16 to 18. They probably go back to SoCal. Then they go to Dallas March 1 to 3 to play in this tournament. And they're going to play against Texas A&M, TCU, and Arizona State. Texas A&M is 11. TCU is ranked 6th. So again, and Arizona State, I'll tell you what, Willie Bloomquist has that squad pointing in the right direction. He's got some great talent, some really good young arms. That's gonna be some fun baseball to watch.
Yeah, it will be in it. And what I like about some of these teams like SC who aren't currently nationally ranked, right? But I like them playing in tournaments against teams that are, because it
Sure.
it basically says these are the boys you have to beat. These are the boys
Yeah.
that you have to make headway with. You can't make headway with these guys, it's not going to matter. Nobody's paying attention to you. And SC is typically a powerhouse in football and basketball, but they've historically been known to have a very good baseball team too. And so, I mean,
Yeah,
you
they
gotta,
have, and if I remember right, the coaching staff's relatively new, so they're trying to make their mark. And then you've got the whole dynamic with a few of these teams of, their last year in their current conference, moving to another conference. So they're testing the waters, playing some of the teams they're going to be playing in conference with next season. For example, Oklahoma playing Tennessee. That's a future SEC team. You've got SC that's going to the Big Ten. So just lots of moving parts there. Interesting stuff.
ton of moving parts, ton of moving parts. Yeah, I like these tournaments. I mean, these tournaments give you a chance to see teams that may not match up with each other, unless they're in Oklahoma, right?
Mhm.
And Oklahoma's, still a little ways away. And
You
some of
mean
these
Omaha?
teams, I mean, Omaha, I kept saying Oklahoma. Yeah, Omaha. And that's still a little ways away. And some of these teams might not make Omaha. So
Well, we'll see. I mean, I bet you a lot. I mean, these 14 teams, half of these teams will make a regional at least, maybe more. So you're talking good baseball teams here.
yeah, you're talking really,
You
really
know,
good baseball teams.
conceivably, all of them could make a regional and make a run. So
Yeah, no, yes, I agree with that. It's nice to see some of the teams that aren't going to maybe see each other a whole heck of a lot, seeing each other, right?
yep.
So okay, so now as we're wrapping up the show, because we just talked about two really, really good teams. And by the way, if you're anywhere near the Phoenix area, pitchers and catchers report on the MLB side that same weekend. If you're that type of person that wants to chase down that, go catch one of these games. They're very inexpensive. Um, you can also, if you're near Globe Life, go catch one of those games. In fact, I think I read this correctly? You can get says general admission tour pass single day, go on sale, single game admissions $30. But you can get a full pass. It looks like a full tournament pass for all 3 weekends for $144.
Yeah.
So
So that'll get you what, I don't know, 25 baseball games or something like that.
yeah,
If you really
yeah.
were, if you really wanted to do that.
And you and I looked up some stuff. I was surprised. We looked up a local college here in the Southern California area as another team's going to come into play, and you and I are talking about whether or not we're going to go to that. I was surprised at the ticket prices.
Hmm.
Very inexpensive. So that's amazing. All
Yep.
right, Baseball America put their preseason rankings out 1 to 25. Um, Talk to me about any surprises first before we kind of go through who's on this list. But was there any surprises that you saw on here, Dave?
Not really. I, you know, there's a bunch of teams you could make an argument for. I also know that, I feel like Baseball America is pretty credible. However, this is a preseason college top 25, so it's only as good as their intelligence on the transfers and the newcomers and how the carryover players are doing and how they're all meshing and playing. We saw last year where Tennessee came out preseason number 2 and proceeded to drop out of the top 25 there after a month or two. They made a run after that and they put their season back together, but take it with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah,
So the actual numbers here, I don't put a whole lot of stock in. It's nice to be a top 10 team, nice to be a top 5 team, whatever. But you could make an argument that a lot of these teams could have a number next to their name and they're not here. So,
yeah,
and at the end of the day, what does it really mean? It just means you got a target on your back.
yeah, it does. And it also, I mean, again, without the jewelry, it doesn't really matter, right? Doesn't matter where you go without the jewelry.
Very
So
true.
I some of these teams, living in the Southern California area, seeing number 25 as University of California, Irvine. I can remember when that team started. I can remember when they were trying to put together a team that, you know, would do anything. It's nice to see them in the top 25. So,
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see some of these lesser known schools get some notoriety. NC State's in there. Coastal Carolina was a little bit less known. They are known now because they are a regular participant in these rankings now. You got was that ECU? Is that East Carolina?
mhm.
So some lesser known teams. No one thinks about Duke and thinks baseball, but
No, I
they're
was just gonna say number
16.
16 is Duke.
Yeah. And you got
Yeah,
North Carolina right next to them. So you got two really good teams, within 10 or 20 miles of each other in Charlotte or Raleigh Durham, I mean.
yeah.
So
Well, you also have there's a number of teams that are somewhat in-state rivals, right? So you've got 7 and 8. You got Vandy and University of Tennessee. So I'm confident that when those two teams meet each other, I'm confident that they're going to want a piece of something, right?
No, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
And if you count up here, I think you got 7 SEC teams, which on one hand is crazy, but it just speaks to the depth of that conference and how good the athletes are and how good those teams are.
Yeah, and another team that was in there that I thought was interesting was, and some of these teams have dropped in the rankings. Some of them have gone up. For example, Virginia finished 8 in the rankings, and are now 10. But Clemson finished their final ranking was 15. They're now at number 9. And they've got a lot of different um, opportunities there. So Clemson, you see Clemson in there, LSU, you see obviously Tennessee, Vandy. I mean, you're kind of in that region for baseball, right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And, the SEC schedule is going to beat up these teams really good, and they're going to be ready to go for their regionals and for the College World Series. That's why those teams go deep a lot of times because uh, they've already been through the war of the SEC schedule. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and the SEC schedule is, I mean, yeah, it's you and I talked about this when we talked a couple of years ago about, your team, the White Sox, and my team, the Dodgers. When you lock it up early, it doesn't give you a lot of when it comes to the playoffs,
mhm.
and they come out, lagging. And so to your point, that's a great point there. I like
Yeah,
these
and
rankings.
it applies to college as well. I mean, you can have a team that, you know, you win 45 games, and then you get to the regional and you haven't played anybody that's really tested you in a while, or you come in scraping and clawing and you just make it in and then you go on a run. So it's the same thing as we saw in the major leagues last year. All you do is get in and you can go on a run and you get your pitching lined up and your hitters get hot. And who knows?
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting too is you mentioned Duke, but there's another team on this list, number 17, North Carolina. When you think of Duke, you think basketball. You think North Carolina, you think basketball. Um,
Sure.
but they weren't ranked last season. They were 36-24 overall, 14-14 in the ACC. They did lose in their regional competition, but they've got a lot of dynamic, impact as well, which is fun. It's fun to watch teams that you would, again, when you think Michigan, you think of basketball, you think of football, you don't think of baseball. Um, and so, for a lot of years, you thought for UCLA, you thought baseball. Um, you didn't think football, you didn't think basketball. But yeah, I like these rankings. They're fun. Is there any
Yeah.
ranking on, is there any team that you know of in college that you feel should have gotten on here, should have been close?
I'm sure the rest of the SEC teams feel like they should be on here. You know, I mean, you got schools like Georgia, um, the Mississippi State and Ole Miss. They're usually on here. I'm sure they would like to have a little chat and see why they're not. But the SEC teams are all really, really good. It's like anything else. Like when the SEC football teams go play out of conference, they usually do really, really well because they're used to playing SEC teams. So usually the SEC teams go out of conference, they do really well. Um, in the other conferences, I'm not really sure, not as familiar. Um, you've got a lot of the right schools represented here. Texas at 13 is going to be a future SEC school. So take a look at that. I mean, now you've got potentially 8 of the top 25 that are really SEC schools. It's crazy.
Well, and you have SEC East and West, right? And you're looking at like you said, Georgia, there, Kentucky. Kentucky had a decent season last season,
Yes.
over 40-21, right? Um, some of these teams are still, Ole Miss struggled quite a bit last season,
Hmm.
so did Mississippi State, but you got Arkansas there, LSU, Auburn, Alabama. Like it
Well,
doesn't
and
get.
think
What's that?
about what happened a couple years ago.
Hmm.
You know, wasn't it Ole Miss that got in barely at the end and then went on a run and won the whole thing?
Yeah, yeah. You and I talked about this years ago when we were talking about some hockey. Was it's not about how you got into the dance. You got there. It's about when you get hot and what you do with the dance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
no,
think,
that
you usually see a team like Louisville show up in these rankings. They're usually got a pretty good team. I don't know where they're at this year. Just thinking off the top of my head. Um, you got Stanford on here. They're usually a good squad. UCLA, I think you're going to be surprised at how that team comes together. They've got some big time talent in the freshman class. So watch out for UCLA.
yeah, yeah, it is, yeah. So I agree with you on UCLA. You have some dealings down in Knoxville. So tell me, as we're wrapping up, tell me about the excitement or the feeling down in Knoxville.
Well, the team looks really good. Obviously, I follow that one really closely. You got Drew Beam coming back. He's your Friday night guy, probably. He's QB1, they call him. There's a few other veteran pitchers coming back. They've got some good transfers. Nate Snead, Chris Stamos, AJ Causey is a submariner that no one wants to face. Um, and then you got the freshman class, and there's a lot of good arms there. We'll see who can, stick out of the crowd and get some innings and really make a difference this season. I'm not going to call anyone out for obvious reasons, but really, really good, talented class. I called out Matthew Dallas already. Hopefully, he's able to get himself into a groove and get conditioned and away from that injury and really, really get after it on the mound. Big, big time left-handed pitcher. And then you've got depth at every infield position. There's guys fighting for every spot, guys that could start on almost any other team. Um, so it's going to be a fun season. They probably are four catchers deep. They're probably two or three second basemen, two or three third basemen deep.
Mhm,
So
mhm. Well, it's gonna be an exciting time down there. You and I are gonna try to. I know you're gonna be in Knoxville a little bit, but I'm gonna try to get out there as well, to a couple of games. It'll be a lot of fun.
yeah, we'll get some content when we're on the road. We
Yeah.
may hit a couple other games too, but you know, my schedule is probably going to be something like Globe Life, Knoxville. I'm going to be in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to be in Auburn. I know I'm going to be in Gainesville, probably Nashville. Try to get the SEC tournament in, probably in SoCal, and probably here in Phoenix watching some games.
So so you don't got anything going on. You're not
No,
traveling at
not at
all.
all.
Yeah, I mean, we'll send the Top Fan Rivalry private jet for you to just take you around. How's that?
There you go. There you go.
It's a little toy jet. I don't know that you'd fit in it, but it
It's a thought
was
that counts.
it's the thought that counts. All right, Dave, I think we did great for episode 2, breaking these out. And again, for those of you that may or may not have heard the first episode, 5 of these episodes will be on YouTube, and then they're going to go directly in the Top Fan Rivalry locker room. Dave and I are going to do college. That's all we're doing this season. And you might hear Dave on a couple of different podcasts, MLB stuff for Top Fan Rivalry, but this is our focus this year, and to highlight some of those athletes, so student athletes are trying to make their way and be heard. And so I'm so excited about how this plays itself out. So, Dave, did we do good enough for episode 2?
I think so. I think so.
I think so as well. I think so as well. So, Top Fan Rivalry followers, enjoy. If you listen to this, feel free to go over to the YouTube channel and watch it and watch Dave and I, as we're taking our notes. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Uh, Otherwise, if you're watching it on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what we missed. So look forward to having you every week listen to us. And Dave, here we go. We'll do it again.
See you next time.
Yep.